Today, let's look at factorizing. Factorizing is the exact reverse of multiplying out brackets. Okay, and I'll show you in a minute how. However, if you don't know how to multiply out brackets yet, I recommend you go check out my videos on that because it will help you a lot for this video. Now let's get started. So factorize the following. The first expression is 3x squared plus 9x. Okay, so the first step, the first thing to do is to take out the highest common factor. So the highest common factor with the numbers that goes into all terms. So the first thing we do is we look at 3 and 9. So what's the highest common factor in this case? It's 3. Okay, so we write down 3. And then the second step is to look at each letter in turn and to take out the highest power that goes into every term. So in this case, we only have x's. So we look at the x's and then we need to take out the highest power that goes into every term. So we have x squared and x. In that case, the highest power is just x, okay? 3x. Now, once we're done with this process and we get this number here, or this term, we open brackets, okay? And now we need to fill in all the bits needed to reproduce each term, okay? So what this means is that, for instance, we took a 3 out, okay? So then we need to do 3 divided by 3 is simply 1, okay? And then x squared divided by x, which we took out, is simply x. Okay, so we took out 1x, therefore the x squared becomes x. Then what about 9x? 9 divided by 3, because we took out 3, becomes 3. And then we took out 1x, so this x disappears. So x plus 3. Okay? Now to check if this is right, we can do the opposite, okay? So this is what I was talking about before. We can multiply out this bracket to go back to the original expression we have, okay? So 3x times x, so x times x is x squared, so 3x squared, and then 3x times 3 is plus 9x, okay? So as you can see, we get the same result, which means that we're correct. Let's look at the second expression. 6xy squared plus 2x squared y. Okay, so like I said before, first step, we look at the numbers and we take out the highest common factor. So in this case, we have 6 and 2. Therefore, the highest common factor in this case is 2. Then we look at each letter in turn. So let's look at the x's. So we have x in the first term and x squared in the second term. So here again, the highest power that goes into both terms is simply x. And then let's look at the y's. So we have y squared and then y in the second term. Therefore, again, the highest power that goes into both terms is simply y. Then we open brackets. And then we simply divide each term by what we took out. So essentially, 6 divided by 2 is 3. X divided by x is simply 1. Okay, so we don't need to write that down. So we took 1x out, so this one goes away. And then y squared, we took 1y out, so we're left with y. Plus, then 2 divided by 2 is 1. We took out a 2, so this 2 disappears. X squared, we took out 1x, therefore we're left with an x. And then y, we took out a y, so we're left with nothing. Okay, excellent. Again, let's check if we're right. 2xy times 3y, so 2 times 3 is 6, x, and then y times y is y squared. 2xy times x, so 2x times x is x squared, and then we have a y. So as you can see, we get the exact same answer. Excellent. What about this expression here? 4yx squared plus 12x squared. So here's a question for you guys. What do you think for the numbers is the highest common factor in this case? Now in this case, the highest common factor is 4, okay, not 2. So although 2 is a common factor, it's not the highest common factor. The highest common factor is 4, okay? So what we need to do is we need to take out 4. Then we look at each letter. So y's, we look at the y's. We only have one y in the first term, nothing in the second term, so there's no common factor here. And then what about the x's? We have x squared in the first term, x squared in the second term. So again, the highest common factor here is x squared, okay? Very good. So then we took out a 4 out, so this 4 disappears. Y, we didn't take any y's out, so we have a y left. And then x squared, we took x squared out, so nothing left. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. And then we took x squared out, so nothing here. Excellent. Now let's expand this to see if we're right. 4x squared times y is simply 4x squared y. And then 3 times 4 is 12x squared. So we're correct. And finally, 6xy plus 15y squared. The highest common factor for the numbers here is 3. Then there's only one x in one term, so there's no common factor, so we don't need to take anything out. And then for the y's, the first term has 1y, the second term has y squared. Therefore, the highest common factor here is y. We open brackets. 6 divided by 3 is 2. We took no x's out, so we have x. And then y, we took one y out, so this disappears. Then 15 divided by 3, that's 5. And then y squared, we took a y out, so we're left with just one y. And then again, let's expand to see if this is correct. 3 times 2 is 6, y times x, xy, or yx, same thing. Then 3 times 5, or plus 5, is plus 15, y times y is y squared. So again, this is correct. So this is it for today. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.